not be acceptable there. That's why this is a very tricky issue. And then it's not new, just look there, Greek and Roman. You don't have to say anything further. Okay, and then the other issue, like I said, we don't have to go into this, but there are so many things that people call participation. That is not necessarily participation. We hear words like participation, consultation, involvement, collaboration, community, citizens, beneficiaries, and then people. What is it? What are we talking about? Is it the same thing? No, it's not the same thing. It means distinctly different things to different people. And it could be at a policy level, at a community level, at a project level. So there are many things that you can call participation, or that you think is participation, and then it's not. So then you think, where do I go? What does this mean? Luckily, we're not going to talk about that today. We're not going to try and solve that. But there's one thing before we move on that I just would like everyone perhaps to think about when they think about the word participation. Participation, as opposed to any other term that you may use. It makes me think immediately of this very old story about the pig and the chicken. Many of you will recognize this. The pig and the chicken decided to collaborate because they wanted to provide the farmer with breakfast. So, that's what they want to do. The chicken was involved. It made a contribution in the form of an egg. Chicken was involved. However, the pig participated. He was totally committed. He provided the bacon. And that's what we're talking about here. That level of commitment, what is just mere involvement as opposed to real participation. And then there's one other add-on to this story that no one ever tells you about, and then that there's the consultant who gets paid and he eats the food. But that's a different discussion altogether. So, a brief background then to the South African context. And the context is so important for us to understand some of the examples I'm going to talk about later on, because without the context, you will not understand how to develop a community crime prevention initiative. So you need to understand the physical environment, the socioeconomic characteristics, the crime situation, and then the people or the users. But I'm not going to go through that in detail, and in fact I will try and rush through it, but I just want you to understand a few things about the South African realities. Let's talk the background, in case you don't know. Because some people have asked me, where is South Africa? There's Africa, there's South Africa, and there's Mexico. Bit of a comparison, these are figures that I got from the latest documents. Mexico, 115 million more or less, South Africa, 52 more or less, but Mexico is only 1.6 times the size of South Africa, just to get a feel. Socio-political situation. Most of you may know that we had a history up to 1994 of what was called apartheid. So that is what we saw. There's an unequal distribution of facilities, like I'm sure that you also experience. This, in fact, is a tavern, because there's no other place for people to go and drink. They just use one of their, we call it shacks. Roads in poor condition in many areas, poverty, extreme levels of poverty, we have heard that. But more importantly is the inequality and income disparity. And Bo talked about that. Thank you for that. It explained the key thing. And South Africa has one of the, if not the highest level, Gini coefficient of inequality in the world today, which is something that will come back during the course of this presentation. Unemployment, we've just recently had, depending on how you define it, between 40 and 50% unemployment. Now that is staggering. So some people can go and do their shopping here, others buy their meat off the sidewalk. That is the difference that we are facing. The crime situation, everyone agrees, even our politicians reluctantly, that our crime situation is just out of hand. It is just too high. Now, this is the report that was recently released by the United Nations, and this was an interesting bit that I picked up. I don't know, I haven't tested it, but it's in the report. 15% of Mexicans report having been a victim of crime in the past year, and only South Africa is better than that. We have more than 15,600 murders per year. That's 31 per 100,000. Compare that to the world average of about 7 per 100,000. But the good news is it's come down considerably from 70 per 100,000. So it is coming down, murder. Compared to Mexico, apparently that's the latest that I got for this past year. USA, and then the winner is Honduras, 92. But again, as with the inequality, the crisis that we're facing is the level of violence that goes with any type of crime. As I think here, people, if you talk about crime, they refer to drugs. When they talk about crime in South Africa, they say it's the violence that scares everyone. They will use violence for any type of crime. So the implications of all of this, the context, is the extreme differences in our income changes and has an impact on the societal inequalities and the way that we are grouped and functioning. And that has a severe impact on the nature of our strategies that we have to develop, because you cannot use one strategy at a national level. So let me give you a bit of background. Greg earlier referred to the crime triangle, which is just something I want to show you, because that explains how we see the role of the environment. There's a ready, willing, and able offender, a target or victim, and a favorable environment. And if you put those together at the same time, you get the crime triangle. Very simple. Potential victim, cell phone, potential offender, and the environment. But there's no crime yet. Just because it's there doesn't mean there's a crime. But if you put them together in the same location and the same time, in that dark spot over there, then you may have that opportunity for a crime. And that is why we say the environment does play an important role, but you must involve the people involved in it. There's people always involved. And similarly, linked to that is the fact that environmental design can play a critical role in dealing with aspects of fear, the fear of crime, perceptions. Now, sometimes the fear is justified. You have to be scared. Other people just don't seem to have any fear. But fear is real. And if you can deal with that through environmental design, you can make a difference. I will just show you some practical examples now of what we're talking about. Just to reiterate, you have, because of the affluent communities on the one hand and the really poor communities on the other hand, you have to find a strategy that works for a specific context to reduce crime. It's not one size fits all. And therefore the same with the public participation or the citizen participation strategies. They have to be tailored for a specific context. If you have the money, if you can pay for it, public participate in defending themselves as follows. They put up walls. They get private security. That's how they want to participate. That's how they deal even with septet. Let's put